We'll begin with breaking news. Thank you, Carl. Welcome to the Halftime Report. I'm Scott Wapner. You are looking at a live shot of the White House, where Ukraine's President Zelenskyy and other European leaders will be arriving for that critical meeting this afternoon with President Trump. We expect these leaders to start trickling in really any time now. We'll bring in our Eamon Javers. He's with us once again to set the scene, just like he was around the summit on Friday in Alaska. Tell us what we should expect here, Eamon, with the big moment that I think we're all looking forward to is the actual arrival of President Zelenskyy and what kind of greeting he gets from the president, given what happened 6 months ago, the last time he visited the White House.
Yeah, Scott, that's right. So a couple of thoughts. One is what you're looking at here is the south lawn of the White House. This is where we expect to see the European leaders arrive. We're told that French President Emmanuel Macron is already on the ground, landed at Dulles a short time ago, and is making his way here to the White House. So we should see that arrival. And you can see they're getting set with cameras, the honor guard, and the rest on the south lawn. European leaders will be arriving there at that red carpet. Here on the north side of the White House, we're going to see Volodymyr Zelenskyy. We're expecting his arrival at about 1 p.m. Eastern, so about an hour's time from now. We do expect the president to greet him at the West Wing entrance, so you'll see photos of that. So the Europeans are coming in. You see the press aides and camera folks getting ready there on the south lawn. They're going to have a lunch inside the White House before a bilateral meeting later in the afternoon. We do expect to see Zelenskyy and Trump together one-on-one in the White House as well. And one of the big questions of all this is how many of those European leaders will participate in that meeting, if any? Will they be all in the room? And there you see the list of European leaders who will be here in Washington. All of these folks have scrambled their schedules at very short notice, which really underscores the importance of this meeting today to them and to European security, Scott. So we'll wait and watch.
And, you know, when we remember what happened the last time, obviously, Eamon, in the Oval Office, it was President Trump who told Zelenskyy he didn't have the cards. And in many ways, this is trying to show up with a full house, so to speak, some really notable face cards to prove that he, in fact, does have the support of leadership in the EU and that they believe that they have an important seat at this table now.
Yeah, clearly that's right. I mean, it was sort of Zelenskyy on his own the first time. Now it's Zelenskyy and company coming to the White House. The Europeans are worried that the United States will back away from its support from Ukraine, will try to push Ukraine into offering too many concessions, including territorial and other concessions. And they're hoping to craft some sort of security guarantee for the Ukrainians backed by Western and U.S. military power that would be enough for the Ukrainians to agree to stopping combat. That's going to be very tricky, though, because the Ukrainians are wary of the Russians using any kind of ceasefire or pause here, negotiated pause in hostilities, to sort of regroup and refresh and then push on in a year and a half time with another invasion. So if you're Ukraine, you know, you want some really ironclad guarantees. But on the other side of the fence is Russia. They've not wanted Ukraine in NATO at all. They don't want NATO encroaching their borders any further than they view it has. And so any kind of security guarantees that are NATO-like are going to be concerning to the Russian side. So this is a very tricky issue today.
You also get a sense that the President of the United States is growing a bit frustrated with the way that his meeting with Vladimir Putin was portrayed. You had the social media post from not that long ago, a couple hours, I think, in which you mentioned it earlier, where the president said, "I know what I'm doing." We can show that. You can speak to it, but also the way that that meeting in Anchorage was framed. A headline in the Wall Street Journal, for example, over the weekend said, quote, "Putin returns to Moscow with air of triumph after summit." That essentially he got exactly what he wanted, a red carpet rollout. He was treated like an equal. He was put into the presidential limousine. So now what does President Trump have to deliver in his own mind in this big meeting today?
Yeah, no question that was a propaganda win for Vladimir Putin at home. He can show his domestic audience that he got the red carpet treatment, all the pomp and circumstance, the ride in the limo, and everything else on U.S. soil. He didn't have to give up anything for that. And he didn't seem to give up anything in the negotiations. The president coming out afterwards in a very short and terse news conference side by side with Vladimir Putin saying, we just didn't get there. President Trump saying we made progress, but we couldn't get all the way there. So Putin, all smiles in the limo on Friday, and we'll see whether he's all smiles at the end of this meeting today. Clearly, the European leaders are here to demonstrate physically their support for Zelenskyy in Ukraine and push President Trump as hard and maybe as gently as they can. And you get a sense from President Trump's social media post this morning, as you've said, just how sensitive he is to the criticism that he is seeing in the media of his meeting with Putin on Friday. He says, I know what I'm doing. Those critics, he said, are stupid.
Well, Zelenskyy has a tough bit to play here as well. He obviously doesn't want to give up or deal with any sort of land swap, but yet he doesn't want the same situation that he endured last time to unfold yet again. I thought it was striking, too, that in terms of social media posts, his own this morning was complimenting President Trump ahead of time for his strength, thinking that you need strength in this moment to deal with Putin and to deal with the situation at large. So trying maybe to compliment the president before he walks into what some worry could be another lion's den.
Yeah, Zelenskyy going the flattery route there and using that word strength several times. It's a word that Trump likes. He likes it when it's attributed to him. Zelenskyy saying American strength, President Trump's strength are going to be the key here in this negotiation. And so the question is, what does, and there you see the post from President Zelenskyy this morning saying President Trump has that strength, talking about peace through strength, and we have to do everything right to make peace happen. But it's the cost of the peace here that's at issue in these negotiations, Scott. What does Ukraine have to give up? What, if anything, does Russia have to give up? When you talk about the idea of land swaps, there's not that much land to swap, right? Ukraine doesn't control very much Russian territory at all. So if they're going to swap, it's just Ukraine giving away land that they've lost militarily through the course of 3 years of combat now. And that's not going to sit well with folks in Kyiv.
The security guarantees are obviously a key component of all of this, as you know, some of which the president has seemingly scoffed at in the past, the idea that he would be willing to do that. Now, there appeared to be somewhat of a breakthrough on that front over the weekend where the special envoy Steve Witkoff suggested that that was something that was potentially agreed to in Anchorage.
Yeah, he did suggest that that was one of the behind-the-scenes agreements that they were able to come to with Putin, that Putin would accept some sort of security guarantee. The trick is the definition of that. What does that actually mean? Does that mean American troops backstopping Ukrainian troops in Ukraine? Does that mean German troops backstopping Ukrainian troops in Ukraine against Russians? Or is it something short of that, air power, artillery, or something else? I mean, how you define that goes a long way to whether the Russians will accept it and also to whether it will be practically effective as a deterrent and then worst case scenario actively effective in any kind of military confrontation that erupts, a year or 2 years from now.
Okay, Eamon, we'll come back to you as necessary as things start to unfold there.